up. Okay, cool. Recording's going. And let's go ahead and jump right into things. Right window. Sweet. All right. So today, as I'm sure you all noticed from the syllabus, we are going to be talking about the React router functionality. So what I've done here is I just created a React project. I'm just calling it React Router Demo. And we just run npm start in order to get things nice and running. And we'll give folks maybe another 1 or 2 minutes just to get that project created. And then after that, we'll proceed, because it would be nice if you all coded along with me, same as usual, since today is going to be a bit more about the fundamentals. So we'll give you guys a couple seconds for that, and then we will proceed. So just create a simple React project, get all the file structures set up, and then once that's done in about a minute or two, like let's say 5:40, we'll come back together. Awesome. All right. So by now, hopefully everybody has gotten their React project for today's demo started. If not, feel free to continue doing that in the background. We're going to proceed on in the meantime. So I've got our project started. For right now, I just cleared the app.js because usually it has a bunch of stuff inside of it, which we don't need for just right now. You can keep it if you want to. You can remove it if you want to. But for us, it's probably just easier to keep it with the div class name just for this time. Okay, so now the next thing that we ought to do is run your install the React router DOM. So what we want to do here is do npm install React router, and I believe I'm just double checking my notes here, DOM, and hit run. And it should install in a couple of seconds. And it does. I have no clue why it's saying that there's vulnerabilities. And let me just run this really quickly to see if this will do anything.
What was the command npm what for the router?
Here, let me go back up for it. So it's this one, npm install, and then react-router-dom. I'll pop it in the chat too, so in case anyone wants to copy paste it. And just to make sure, everyone can see my VS Code right now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so all right, it looks like apparently the npm audit fix really wants to do a lot of stuff in the backend. So let's just keep moving forward, and I just won't run anything for a little bit and let the console do its thing. So we'll pull that here. All right, so once everybody has successfully installed the React router DOM, we're going to want to import a bunch of components, not a bunch, maybe 5 components from it that we're going to want to use in our project today. So the first thing that we want to do is type import. And there's a couple of things we'll want to bring in. So the first one is going to be browser router. So that's this guy. And when you click that, it automatically knows to bring it in from React Router DOM because VS Code is slightly intelligent. Then we also want to bring in, let's see, link, switch, routes and route. Is everybody able to import these without it throwing any errors so far?
React router.
Yeah, so it's going to be from React router dot. Okay, so let me just okay, apparently addressing all the issues decided to create more vulnerabilities. That's not supposed to happen. And for now, we'll just say that everything's fine. And once I send you guys off for the group projects, I will figure out what on earth is going on with my NPM. But so this is all I want us to do for right now. Then after that, we can run our good old NPM start just to make sure that our web page doesn't break completely when we include this, which it really hopefully should not once it loads. Okay. Apparently trying to fix my NPM decided to completely break my NPM start. So that's fun. Okay. So for now, we'll just code this and I'll leave it to you guys to run this because I don't want to waste your time with me debugging this really weird problem. So let's go ahead and get back to this. I have no clue why this is happening. So has everybody been?
Oh, sorry, I have for some reason I have two sets of package lock JSON and package JSON installed. I'm sure we need one set.
These ones on the left, right?
Yeah, and I also have the same below README.
Oh, yeah, just actually here, would you mind sharing your screen, Lazuka?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Go for it whenever you're ready.
One sec.
Okay. Let's see. Can you collapse router?
Sure.
And you can delete the package lock and package.json over there. Yep. And also,
Okay.
so on line 3, where you have browser router, you need to include a U.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So
All right. Thank you.
there we go. Yep. All right. So go ahead and go back to mine. And we'll hit the share button one more time. Okay, cool. Everyone can see VS Code now, right? All right,
Yes.
I'm going to zoom, so awesome. Okay, so we've got our app.js. We've imported all of this fantastic stuff. So now let's try to figure out what each of these things does. So for today, we're going to make a hypothetical project with a couple of components. So let's say that, I don't know, let's say we want to create like a blog website. So to do that, let's go ahead and add some components. Let's call this blog.js. Can include maybe a home, and we can include like an about.js. And I'm doing all of this in a little components folder off the left here that I have decided to create. Now, one thing to note, if you look in the app.js, this is pretty much the same thing as the one that you get when you do when you create your project. This is a functionally based component, not class based. For today and going into the future, we'll probably start to use more function-based components and less class-based components, just because that's what people are switching to nowadays. It's still important to work in both. So after we're done, I always encourage you guys to go and refactor things into class-based, but function-based is what we're going to use today. So on each of our pages, we're just going to keep them really, really simple for now. So how do I create a functional component to render a web page in React? Or how do I create a component to be rendered as a function-based component?
You'd write a function that returns some JSX and then export it.
How do I do that? So let's say I want this function to be called blog. What do I have to do to make the blog function turn from 4 letters into a thing that does stuff to our web page?
You have to pick whether you do it as a regular style function or an arrow function.
All right.
Decide whether you want to pass props in.
Let's say that we're going to leave it as a propless arrow function for now.
Okay. Well, then it'll be blog equals empty parentheses equals with the greater than symbol. Then you'd open up some brackets. And from here, you can write more functions or declare variables, but ultimately we just want to render the page. So you'd return JSX, which looks like HTML.
Perfect. Yep. So for us right now, we're just going to keep the JSX really simple. We'll just call it like an H2 tag, and we'll say this is a blog page. And
don't you need const blog or dot blog? Probably const.
Yep. So whenever we're defining a function, we always want to, especially when we're using functional components, you want to make sure you have a constant in there. So thank you for that, Lazuka. And yes, you want constant blog equals, then your props. We're not going to take any props just for right now. And then what are we going to return? We're going to return some JSX for our web page. What do we want to return? Well, the fact that this is a blog page. And then now we can export. So how do I export again? Anyone want to remind me?
Export default blog.
Perfect. Awesome. And we can literally just copy this over to our other pages as well. So we can say for home, we'll have home. This is a home page, and I'll just change it to be very, well, we can change it to something different. We can change it to underlined font as well, just to make the difference a little bit more obvious. And then for the about page, we can do the same thing. We'll create an about component. This is an and about page, and we can make this italics. Sure. So as it stands right now, we have a blog page, a home page, and an about page. Does anybody have questions about what we did so far? This is just mostly review from the past week or so. All right, I'm going to assume not. So let's go ahead and move on. So we've gone ahead and written all of these stuff up in our blog.js and home.js and about.js. That's great. But if we don't call these components anywhere, they're just going to sit in our components folder and be a little bit useless. So how do I bring in stuff from my components folder into my app.js file? What do I need to do?
Like import first, and then in the function, like in the div, like call it.
Yes. So how do I import, let's say, how do I import the blog component? What would I need to type?
Do import blog, the class name blog, or function name, sorry, blog. And then it should just autofill the rest. Yeah.
Yep, pretty much. And we can do this for the other ones too. So you just import home, home, and we can import about from components.about. Sweet. All right. So we now have most of, actually, yeah, pretty much all of our imports done. So let's just double check. So we're importing logo. We can delete that. Importing the CSS, which is, yeah, that's fine. It's just regular CSS. We're importing browser router, link, switch, route, and routes to be discussed very shortly from the router DOM. We're importing blog from components blog, home from home components, and about from the about components. All right. So the next thing that we need to do is go into our app in here, and we can actually take out the div. So the first thing that we want to do is wrap everything in a browser router, like so. And the reason that we do this is because this is basically going to control all of the routes and links and so on and so forth. So we want to wrap basically the entirety of our navigation in our app in the browser router for starters for right now. So does anybody have questions about reaching this point?
Yeah. So on the import, when you're importing blog, do we need to specify like blog.js, or can we just put blog there when you after on the front, like on the directory?
Nope, you should just be able to say blog. Because if we go back to our blog.js, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you go back to your blog.js, you see how we've got the export default blog there. So that's where we're importing the blog from here. And then from the component/blog, it automatically infers that it's going to be a JavaScript file because it's a JavaScript component.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So it's not necessary to put .js.
Correct. I mean, you can. It's just not necessary to.
That's fine. Appreciate you.
Yep. Other questions for now? All right. If not, actually, here let's go ahead and take 5 real quick because I want to go ahead and figure out what is going on with my node installation because there are a few things that I want to show you in the browser. And if npm start isn't working, which it hasn't been for the past 10 minutes, I don't think we'll be able to do that. So let's go ahead and take 5. I'll come back at 6:05 and hopefully it should be working by then. Resume this. Okay, so I think I hope that I figured out the problem. But we shall see. go ahead and double check that the recording has been restarted. It has, which is great. We'll go ahead and add this, terminate that, go back to here. All right, so it turns out that running the npm admin fix decidedly breaks everything for npm, which is fun. So I basically ended up having to just recreate my Django project from scratch and creating a new one, which explains why this is called router demo instead of React router demo, and copy paste the files over. So if anybody else ends up hitting the npm audit button and it ends up giving you even more errors and breaking your npm start, this looks like it should work. So just create a new project and things should not completely, totally, and utterly collapse, which, I mean, that's always a great sign. Okay, so that's thing number one. Thing number two, how many people here use Google Chrome? No one else uses Google Chrome?
I do.
I do.
Okay, cool. So a decent chunk of people. So for those of you who do use Google Chrome, here is a tool that I highly recommend. It's called the React Developer Tools, which give you basically two brand new tools in your Chrome dev tools. It adds, let's see, what is that? Components, yeah, components and profiling. So if right now, or not right now, I mean, it's up to you. But right now might be a decent idea. I would go ahead and install that because that is something that we will be using in the future and today too, in order to basically just take a look at various React objects and elements. Mine, for some reason, has decided that it does not want to work right now for unknown reasons. Apparently, my computer really wants to throw a fit today. But yeah, I would check that out. Okay, so where were we? So we've set up our app.js. We have our blog, our home, and our about pages. And the recording is going great. Blog, home, about, we imported those from our really basic, simple site here. And if we want to go ahead and just npm start our app right now, just to make sure things are not critically broken. Once it opens. Everybody should just get a blank screen. And James, thank you for that link for the Firefox folks. For people using Safari or Opera or other strange browsers, there's probably React Dev tools out there for those, but I do not know specifics of how those work. So I'm not the best person to ask about that, but I would look into those as well because those can be helpful.
Is your screen frozen, or were you sharing something?
Possibly. Here, let me try resharing it. Okay, what about now? Can you guys see my very blank React app?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Is this where everyone is at right now when you hit npm start? Or is it not working for anybody?
So it should be a blank white screen, right? After you import the
Correct.
browser router, link, all that stuff. Yeah, okay.
Yes, that's what I'm just double checking. Is everybody at the blank screen?
Yep, I am.
Okay, sweet. So what we all want to do right now is right click and go into your inspect element. And if you guys have downloaded the React developer tools into Chrome, Firefox, or insert other browser here, if you go to the More tabs section, you should see two brand new icons, which is Components and Profile. If we go ahead and click Components, okay, let me zoom in. That was a little bit much. These are all of our React components on the page right here, right now. And this essentially tells us what's going on in our app. So what do we have? Well, the first thing that we have, if we go back and look at our code, the first thing that we did in our app.js is we put a function app right at the top. And well, that's exactly the same thing that shows up here. We've got our apps function and our apps component, if you want to put it that way. Inside of that, we then put in a browser router, which is what we wrote in our HTML. And then it adds in a couple of other things. Adds in a router, which we don't know what that is yet. We add in a navigation provider and a location provider. So based off of this, we can tell that browser router is something that's going to set up a routing framework for us to play with in React. What this will essentially let us do is connect between different web pages in React, but also re-render components. If somebody, say, clicks a button or does an action, we can have them stay on the same URL and re-render a component. We can have them switch to another URL. That's about it. But using those, the possibilities are endless. So does anybody have questions about like the browser router 101? And we're going to go into a decent bit more depth on this in the next 15 minutes or so. Okay, I'm going to assume not. So let's go ahead and switch back to code. All right, so we've got our browser router set up here, and we're going to put everything inside of this browser router for our purposes right now. So the first thing that we can do inside of our browser router is introduce. Did you want to? Yeah, we can introduce links. So let's go here and let's type the word link. Okay, so if you want to do that, here we'll terminate the batch job. There we go. Stop that from running. So there's a couple of different things that we import. We've got links, switches, routes, and route. So the first thing I'm going to start with are links. So links are basically like your ahref tags in normal HTML, because links will point you from one URL to another URL. That's basically all that links do for our purposes. And we can specify where a link goes to using the to property or prop, and we don't need that, but we can just keep it with regular good old quotation marks. So we can have a link that just goes here, and we can say that this is going to be our home page, let's say, and we can add in a couple more. And we can add in a link to, let's say, about, and then we can say add in a link to blog. I'm going to call this about and blog. And just to be nice, formatting wise, go ahead and add in some break returns. That'll probably be nice. And let's go ahead and npm start this so we can see what this looks like. And starting the server. And I'm going to go ahead and switch my share over. Okay, so again, this is the new version of our React app with its kind of pretty formatting. So I've got our home, about, and blog links up here. And we'll see if if I'm on home, it just goes to the normal localhost 3000 page. If I go to about, it changes the link up here to an about page. And if I go to blog, it changes the URL to the blog page. And I can go back home. So again, let me also go down to inspect element so we can see what's going on with our React components here as well. So yeah, this is exactly what we just set up. We've got our app, we've got our browser router controlling all our navigation. We've got our router, which also controls navigation. Then we have a couple of other things, and then we have link, link, and link. And again, we can see the prompts of each of these links. So the child of the link here is basically home, and it goes just to the right base page. Same thing for about. The child of this link is just the word about, and it goes to, if we click it, the about page. And I'm sure you can see what's coming for blog. It's the exact same thing. You wrote blog here. If I click the blog page, it goes up to blog up there. So links serve to send us to a new URL, which will re-render the entire page completely. So for example, if you wanted to send somebody like from, I guess, like the home page of your website to like a login screen, and the login screen looks completely different from the home page, links would probably be a good go-to. But there are some other things that we can also do. So let me go back to router demo. So first off, does anybody have questions about how the links work or what they do? Any questions? Okay, so let's go ahead and go to part 2. So let me go ahead and reshare this guy. So again, we have our links here, and we can use those links to go to different pages. That's great. So we have a blank page for home and about and blog. But you noticed when we went to each of those pages, the pages look the exact same as a normal page. What happened to our fancy stuff that we'd coded up in our home.js or blog.js or about.js? None of that is there. So how do we take our web page components and render them using each of the links? So for example, I don't want the blog page to show up on the about page or the home page to show up on the blog route. I want each of these to be for a specific route. So to do that, first thing that we're going to do is create a switch case. Like so. Okay, what's error? That'll be fine. Oh boy. Switch imported in switch was not found in React router DOM. Definitely should be. Here, let's try import. Interesting. All right, is anybody else getting the same error right now?
I am.
Yes.
All right. That is interesting. If that doesn't work, then there's an alternate though.
I was having a lot of errors earlier, but then I realized that whenever I downloaded the React router DOM, I didn't CD into my app first. And so I don't know where exactly you downloaded your React router, Don, but I did find that once I CD'd into my app or my my React instance, then everything working correctly. So like I don't have my phone messing up right now.
Okay, yeah, no, that'll definitely do it. So whenever you npm install, you want to make sure that you're doing that inside of your React project. That's generally a good rule of thumb. All right, so let's go back here and let me see if I can try this. Okay, 2 errors. All right, that's not it. Here, let's just not import switch at all. And scroll all the way down. Great, now we're just getting warnings. Okay, so my hunch is that switch is either deprecated or I'm misinstalling it somehow. But there's another thing we can do, and that is with routes. So let me go ahead and go down here, routes, and create a new HTML section for that. So what exactly are routes in React? So remember how I said that links are things that send you from one URL to another? Well, routes, instead of sending you from one URL to another, they render or display a component when a URL matches the path of your route. So let's go ahead and see how we can set one of these up. So let's go ahead and create a new route here. And we can make that route link to our home page, for example. And in order to create a route, we're in the link, for example, where we have the to field, with routes, we have the path field, and we'll just leave it as blank for now. Should probably work. And we have our home for formatting purposes. I'll just add a little space between each of these. So now if we go to homepage, okay, let me terminate the batch job and npm start this guy. And it should show up in just about another second here once it decides that it wants to load. All right, well, ideally, it should decide that it wants to load. Okay, it looks like that's decided to break as well. So that's fun. Is it working for anybody else before I go ahead and try debugging? Because there's one possible syntax thing that might be causing it. Is anybody else getting the page to not show up right now?
Mine is not showing up.
Mine either. And the components part says loading React element tree. If this seems stuck, please follow these troubleshooting. So it's stuck.
Awesome. Well, okay, maybe awesome was wrong, but yes, that's essentially what we're dealing with right now. So instead of this, what we can do is instead of writing route path equals to that, let's go ahead and do this. And here, instead of creating it outside, we can say element equals and put some opening brackets here. And now we don't need this guy anymore. And now this should hopefully render our home page. So we go ahead and go to localhost 3000. Hooray. Okay, here, let me switch over to share real quick. All right, I'm assuming everybody can see my localhost 3000 with the very nice bold, this is a homepage.
Yep.
All right, does everybody else have the same thing right now?
For some reason mine is still not working, but I can do it later. It's fine.
Okay, here, I'll switch back to the code in just a second, actually. Where are you? New share. There we go. Perfect. So again, what I've done here is we have the routes field, and inside of that, I'm setting up a new route. Now, what's the route I'm setting it up for? What path? I'm saying, hey, when you just get to the default page, like the landing page, with a blank path, I want you to render the home page element. And the home page element, you'll remember, if we go back here, is in heading 2 with underlined that says this is a home page. And again, if we go back to our React app, that should be what we see. We see our little nav bar up here with the home, about, and blog, and we see this is a home page. Now, if I go down to, let's go to my components, we've got a lot of stuff in here. So again, let's break it down. I'll zoom in a little bit. So we've got the app, which is our overall thing. Got a browser router, and each of our links. So we have our home link, about link, and blog link, just like before. And then in here, we have all of our routes. And the rendered route is going to be the route that's found at this location, which in our code, we said links to home. And again, it doesn't take in any props. So this is how we render the homepage component. Any questions about how that works? And B, does everybody get the same thing? Or is anybody not seeing what I'm seeing right now when you're replicating this on your own?
Yeah, mine's not populating at all.
Mine's not
Oh.
either.
Mine is not either.
Okay. So I'll do this in order that I heard it. So Austin, do you want to share your screen first and we can walk through it?
Yeah, sure.
All right, the floor is yours.
Okay.
Aha. All right. So the reason that yours isn't populating is so let's take a look. The error is probably in lines 23 through 25.
Okay.
So what you're doing here is you're starting off with the routes tag and you're creating a routes error, which is great. But then in line 24, the S is the typo. So you want to create a new singular route.
Oh, okay.
So try that and reload the page and see what happens.
Yeah, still nothing.
Okay. So also you can remove the switch from line 3.
From line 3?
Yeah. And here, let me just go ahead. I'm pulling up my code as well, just to make sure that we're doing the same thing because it looks pretty much the same. So you're importing app, browser router, link, routes, route, blog, home, about, function app. You're returning a browser router, and you've got your links for your homepage, about and blog. You've got your routes, and you've got a route path there, and the element is home.
I think I see it.
And
It's right there.
oh,
the
go ahead.
home. There's a between 24 and 25. I think you need another home. I think on yours, Omar, did you have a like another closing home tag?
Nope.
You did.
But
You just did a
actually-
singular one. Okay. All right. I
Just a
was
singular.
okay. My bad then.
But that was a good catch, though.
On line 24, you're closing the tag there. You don't need to close it. Oh, you need a root closing tag? Maybe?
No, you shouldn't need one. But actually, what I would say is right over here, I would just put a space and see if that makes a difference. It really shouldn't, but that's just what I recommend doing in terms of syntax. But also, Chris actually has a really good point. Can you see what your console says in Chrome?
Yeah, sure.
Or if that's telling, oh boy.
Oh man, okay.
All right. Let's go all the way to the top and see if we can figure out what's going on here.
It says invalid hook call.
All right. A hook can only be called inside of a function component. Oh, can you maybe go to the home.js page? There might be an issue there. Okay. That's not it. Let's see. Cannot read properties of no. But yeah, also Nicholas P is mentioning did you run React or install npm install React router DOM?
Yeah, I did.
And did you run that inside of your app directory?
I'm pretty sure I did. I can give it another try though. It was would it hurt if I do it again?
No,
But
it's,
make sure it's npm install.
I installed mine twice, so you should.
Okay.
Yeah, no dash.
Okay.
So it's going to be install space React dash router DOM. And now it's the dash. So it's React dash, yeah,
Router.
dash DOM. Try that. And don't worry about the vulnerabilities. Do not run npm audix fix dash dash force because that will cause your program to go insane. And now try this now. Let's see. So wait for it to acknowledge that it's starting.
Hey, there we go.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, Nicholas and Matthew, for that save. So yeah, sometimes when you get React errors, sometimes it's a code error. Other times, just reinstalling your React DOM or whatever other npm stuff you have can solve it too. But I'm glad to see that was resolved. All right. So I think Wade, were you also having a problem? With yours?
And then I tried install the DOM and then it just still have problem. I think my problem started before we were working on the routes, so I wasn't sure why that happened.
Okay. Do you want to share your screen and show us as well?
Yep. Where's that? Oops.
Okay. And can you show us your console? Or sorry, the Chrome window that you're running this in.
Oh, am I sharing? I think I'm at the Chrome, right?
No, I think right now you're sharing a desktop with VS Code.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Probably I moved to another screen. Right.
There we go. Okay, now I can see the React app.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So the above error occurred in the link component of link router. All right, so it looks like there's a problem with the link. At least that's what the error seems to say. So let's go back to your code. Aha, okay. So this is one of the things that is very slightly annoying about React. Capitalization is a big thing.
Oh.
I would change all the links to uppercase.
Oh, that's probably why.
Yeah. And the reason for that is for the uppercase, the stuff that starts with an uppercase is going to be a React component or thing, and the stuff that starts with lowercase is generally default HTML.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that fixes it. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. And again, if anybody ends up running into issues like that while I'm working through something, feel free to come on mic or put it in the chat like immediately. There's absolutely no need to wait. Okay, is anybody else having issues right now, or that haven't been addressed, or that are going unsolved before we keep moving?
So I fixed mine just by you fixing both previous ones. So I had those both problems. So now it's good. Thanks.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. Anybody else? Okay, if not, there's just a little bit more that we're gonna do before I send you guys off. So give me maybe another 20 minutes, and then we should be good for lecture today. So again, let's go back to our React app here. So we've got our nice little hierarchy. We've got our home, about, and blog. This is a home page renders because of the routes that we have in place. And if I go to the about page, I don't see the home, which is perfect. If I go to blog, I also don't see the home. But if I go to home, I do see the home page. So again, just so we're all clear on this. So the links change the URL that you're navigating to. So about, go to blog, and go to home, those change the URL. But the routes render components on the page. That's the main distinction between them that we're going to be using here. All right, so let's go back over. Nope, wrong window. Where are you? Let's go over. Nope, come on. That's there we go. And let's maximize you and zoom in a little bit. Oh, okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and add in a couple more routes just for sake right now. So we can add in an about route for our about element, and then we can add in, let's say, a blog route for our blog BLOG element. And we can see here the Webpack compiled successfully. So what does this do? Well, this adds in a couple more routes to sync up with our other links. So next time around, for example, if I click the About page, it'll say, all right, I want to link to the About. So I'm going to go to the URL that's localhost 3000/about. That's going to go down here and say, all right, the path I'm on is localhost 3000/about. /about. That means I have to render an element because I refer to it in my routes. What element am I going to render? The about element, at least in theory. So let's go ahead, go back to our React app, back to the home page. Let's go ahead and refresh everything. Go to about now, and we see that it changes to this is an about page. And let's click the blog, and this is a blog page. I can go back home, and goes back to this is a home page. So if we go back to our little console here, and we see all the React components that are being rendered, we see here that routes has a rendered route underneath it. And the child of this rendered route is home, right? That's just going to be our home component. So all the other routes, like for about and for blog, are still in play. But because we're not at the right URL for it, those aren't being rendered. So again, we go to about and look here too. The only route that's being rendered is the about route. If I go to blog, it's the exact same thing. The only routes being rendered are the ones that are relevant for the page as specified in our routes. let's see. Is there anything else that I wanted to cover for now? So, well, oh yeah, there is one more thing. So let's go back to VS Code. So right now, what I'm using are path equals and then a path about and path equals / block. But hypothetically speaking, let's say that we had two paths that were really, really simple. So let's say that I had, for example, / about / block. So like this, again, hypothetically speaking. So if we go back to our React app, I'm going to refresh this. And if I go to my about page, it'll go to the about. And if I go to blog, oh, wait, one more change. Oh, yeah, there we go. And refresh that. So if I go to about page, I'm on my about page. And if I'm on my blog page, I'm on my blog page. But notice this. So the route that I'm using in the about page is have / about, but this route has a path of about / blog. And these two paths are really, really similar. Now, in older versions of React, it used to be that when the paths are really similar, React would get confused about which path you were going on and thus which elements you wanted to render. So to avoid that from happening, it's generally been good practice to write route exact path. And exact path basically means that I want the path that matches up exactly with whatever is in this URL. You don't need that per se nowadays, again, because of what we just looked at, but it's generally something good to include, A, just in case somebody who's reading it is familiar with an older version of React, and B, it's always a good idea to give React just that tiny little bit more of extra specificity and tell it, all right, if I'm going to the page that has a / and only the page that has a / nothing else, then I want you to render the home. If I'm going to something that has a / and about, but nothing else, I want you to render about. And so, also, we can render stuff using props in here as well. So let me go ahead and do, let's say, blog. To render props in this, we can use a colon and do like blog ID, let's say. And if we were to go back to React app, let's say, but we don't see anything for about our blog page. But if I go to, let's say, blog 12, it goes to a blog page. And if we go here, we aren't passing any props to blog right now, but we can pass it through because we included it up here. So that's how we can pass props in using our routes. So we can pass them in using this little colon, and then in blog.js, for example, if we actually wanted to pass in a prop, we would have to bring in use params because it's a parameter. We'd import that from the React router DOM. And then we would also want to import, let's see, use effect from React. Would anyone like to go through an example of use effects and props?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anybody who feels like they're okay with it as well? I just want to get a general sense from you guys about how you feel about use params and use effect.
I'm more used to the class base, so I would like to see the use effect for sure.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's again more than fine. That's why we're doing this. So use params is going to basically get your parameters and get your prompts, and use effect can help you do stuff with your prompts. So for right now, before our return statement, because that's going to chop everything off, let's go ahead and say we'll define a constant, and we'll put it in. Where we go? Okay. Yeah. So we'll put it in curly brackets, and we can call it post ID. How do I spell it here? Blog ID, blog ID, and this is going to be equal to our use params. And right now we can just say console.log blog ID. So if we go back to our React app, and wrong zoom out. Let's zoom out with this guy, then go to our console, and let's say I'll go to the home page, go to the about page. There's nothing on the blog page because there's no routes matching it. And let's say somebody give me a number.
4.
4. Lovely number. Go to 4. It reloads our page. This is a blog page. And if we look in the console over here, we see that indeed the prompt that we passed forward, the number 4, is console.logged in the console, which is what we wanted. So that's what use params does. Use params will take your prompt that you passed in, and if you want to, you can console.log, which is a nice little feature that I personally don't mind very much. All right, so let's see. I mean, there's a couple of other things that we can do with it. I'm just thinking about how best I want to. Well, here we can leave it at something really simple for now. So let's say instead of saying this is a blog page, we can say this is blog page number, and we can say the number of the blog page is going to be our blog ID. And here we can take out use effect for now, because that gets into more complicated things when calling APIs. I don't have any APIs on hand that we can call just the system. But what this will do is by putting it inside of the curly brackets here, it'll say, hey, I don't want to just render the text block ID. Blog ID is an actual variable. So let me go ahead and pull that variable from inside of here. Oh, what's that variable? Blog ID is a thing from use params. What's use params? Oh, it's the blog ID thingy from the path. So let's go back to our React app. Let's go here. And yeah, we can see here, I've typed blog 4, and indeed it shows us that this is blog page number 4. Similarly, if you wanted to change it to, let's say, 153, this is blog page number 153. So getting props in React is not terribly complicated when you use the route system like this, which I personally love. Again, using routes, we can go to the other pages, like 3000, the home page shows us it renders something different. We can go to our about page. We can go to our blog where it doesn't show anything. And again, if I type like 12, then it'll show us this is blog page 12. And if I go to 153, it shows us this is blog page 153. So in conclusion, what did we go over today? Well, the browser router is something that we can use that takes us from one thing in our browser to another thing. What are the things in question? Well, we can use links to jump between pages and have different URLs. And we can specify those URLs using the to tag. And then those only specify the URLs that we can access them. They don't tell us anything about what's rendered on those pages. Now, how do we specify what's rendered on those pages? We use routes. And for that, in order to tell us what's going to be rendered, we use the paths to connect our routes to the links, which are the things that we click. And then we link the paths are connected to elements, which are going to be the components that get rendered on our page. And then really quickly at the end, we did a little bit of practice passing props in using the colon to our JavaScript files, and we can get those props back using use params. We can console.log them, we can return them, we can add those as inputs to an API. We can do a ton of stuff with props. But that is basically the React Router DOM 101. Does anybody have questions, comments, concerns, things of that nature I can answer about it at this time?
On the page, so when you render, no matter if you click home, about, or blog, those three words are always gonna show up. So it's not like lead us to like a whole new page. It just renders whatever the components are, right?
Correct, yes. But so when you click, so it will take you to an entirely new page when you click the link. So this is where I want to make the difference between the link and the router very clear. So when you click a link, it will go to a new page because it'll link you to a new URL. But when you are using the routes, it'll render a new component on the same page.
Wait. So if I click home, and then it will link to the rows, the path that renders elements home.
Right.
But it's still on that page, it still has home, about, and blog.
Yes. And that's because those three things don't change. Those are all the way at the top of our app, at the top of our browser router. So because they're all the way at the top of the browser router, and we haven't specified that those things do not show up on certain pages, those will always be there. So that's sort of like your nav bar in a sense.
Okay.
Does that sort of help?
Yeah, but then you said the link will send us to like a whole new page.
Or it'll send you to a new URL. Correct. So that's why, again, when you click on home or you click on about, it changes the URL in your browser.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
Omar, can we also apply these routes and link in a component? Or
Yes, you definitely should be able to. In general, though, you generally don't use the routes in components. You generally want to have let me rephrase that.
just for example, you have like a button there and then you want to go somewhere.
So for that, I would use the link instead of the route. Because if you want to go to a new page or a different page, you would use a link in your component. But if you want to like the button.
Oh, because you couldn't component to you couldn't do from component to another component.
Right. And also just because the routes themselves do not actively re-render stuff. It's when you click the link that will go and tell the route, hey, I'm activating this route. I need you to do this stuff. Any other questions?
In your app file, app.js, when you set the path to blog/blog ID,
yes.
how do we know that is a number? We just assume so.
Pretty much in general, it's supposed to be a number. But you could also change it to words. So, well, let me just double check that to verify. So again, I'm on the blog page. Again, it says no routes matched blog. That's fine. But if we could type in a number like this, it says that the blog page number. I could probably change it to text. And yeah, it takes text too. So that works as well as a prop. But then generally you'll you'll separate your props using like question marks or non-alphanumeric characters, if that helps. So you can be numbers, it can be words, it can be a combination of the two, but in general, no questions. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. I guess it doesn't really matter what you call it. It's just how you set up your path.
Right.
In the browser.
Other questions? No one has questions?
What would have switch done instead of route?
So if switch had worked, which my gut says that probably didn't because it was using an older version of React, but I'm going to check about that once I turn you guys loose. Switch essentially acts the same thing, or essentially acts the same way as the routes tag does. So switch is just like a switch statement in Python or JavaScript, where instead of having like the if blank, else if blank, else if blank, else if dot 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 dot, the switch statement basically says like case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. And it does the same thing with the routes. So switch statement for your route would be like, all right, I'm going to go from the top down. Route blank is the home page. Is the URL I'm at the same thing as the home page? No. All right, let me go to the next one. About page. Is the route for the about page being accessed? No. Well, let me go to the next one. And that's basically all the switch statement would have done. Again, it's identical. It's identical to the routes tag. Which case is no more. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that would explain why it wouldn't import it then. And yeah, and instead of doing that, you could use router, but I just use, again, like they say in the top comment there, you wrap your content in routes, and that's about it. But thank you for that source, Chad. But yeah, so no more switch tags for us. Any other questions? Are there actually no other questions? Okay, so in that case, let me go ahead and make tonight's teams. You'll give me 1 second. Or actually, so did you guys get a chance on use site 1?
Yes, sir. We did that yesterday.
I did not, just because I wasn't here.
I'm sorry, we did it on Tuesday, not yesterday.
You guys hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe.
We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. My speakers decided to die for no reason. But sorry. So did you guys get a chance to work on New Site 1 yesterday or the day before?
We did it on Tuesday.
Okay, cool. Were you guys in teams for that, or did you work on it individually?
Well, we did individual, but we were able to work with somebody if we wanted to.
Okay, cool. So tonight is going to be New Site 2. Do you guys want to be in teams for that? Or would you rather not?
Maybe we could just open up breakout rooms if we do want to work together, but maybe not be forced so that everyone has a chance to put their hands on it, you know?
Sure, that sounds good to me. Anybody disagree or want to do something different?
Nope, I concur.
All right, cool. So here, I'll just pop the repo for New Site 2 in the chat here. Again, New Site 2 is basically just going to continue New Site 1. You're going to add in a component, a couple of pages. And the fun part that we worked on a little bit in class today is going to be creating a routing system. So again, for your routes, the main thing you want to do, make sure to npm install the React Router DOM. You want to import the browser router, link, routes, and route. And that's about it. So here, actually, I can go ahead and pop my code for today into the Delta channel, just so you all have that. Let's go ahead and send that. All right, great. So you guys all have that now. Let me know if you have any questions. And I'll check back in with you all shortly. Good luck.